What's going on, guys? Keyser here from KeyserReveal, and today we'll be taking a look at the GH5 and the Metabones Speed Booster. Now this won't be an in-depth review of the GH5, this will be more about how Nikkor lenses function with the Metabones Speed Booster and the GH5. But before we get into that, I want to thank the guys over at Storyblocks for sponsoring today's video. Storyblocks is your one-stop shop for everything graphics related. Whether you're a professional, a student, or simply a hobbyist, Storyblocks has ideal graphics for your project needs. As a member, you'll have access to over 400,000 high-quality vectors, illustrations, and photos from the member library. You'll also save 60% on marketplace content. Now, these graphics offer a great solution for content creators looking to add a little flair to their project. And best of all the images that you download are royalty-free and yours to use as much as you want. So this really takes the hassle out of worrying about one-time use agreements. Right now, Storyblocks is giving away a 7-day free trial, so you guys can visit storyblocks.com or click on the link below to try it out. Alright, so I know you guys may be wondering why I'm using Nikkor lenses with a GH5. Well, that's because photography is primary for me, and I'm still using my D810 for that stuff. So this is the GH5 and the Metabones Speed Booster XL64 for Nikon f-mount lenses. Inside the box you get a case for storage and the adapter. Up top you have your aperture control ring. Now it's important to note that Nikkor lenses won't communicate electronically with the Speed Booster, so it doesn't support autofocus, VR, or electronic aperture control. Now I'm not sure why this is, but I'm pretty certain that it's less to do with Metabones and more to do with Nikon not allowing it. Now this isn't a big deal for me since I'm only using this camera for video and I manually focus anyway. But if you were looking to use this camera for photography also, then that could be an issue depending on the type of photography that you shoot. It's also worth mentioning that when taking stills, you will get some vignetting in the corners. Now I didn't dig too deep into that, maybe that's something I'll do in the future, but overall I was pretty impressed by the image quality. Now as far as the aperture control, you're going to have to use the aperture ring on the Speed Booster. And since the Nikkor lenses don't communicate with the Speed Booster, you won't be able to see what your aperture is in camera. Usually this isn't a big deal because normally manual aperture control lenses will have the actual f-stop value on the lens, but because this isn't a manually controlled aperture control lens, you have to rely on the Speed Booster, and it's represented by 8 hash marks, F through 7. Now initially my thought was that these hash marks represent one stop, but I wanted to verify that with Metabones. Unfortunately, it's been 2 months and they still haven't responded to my email, so I contacted the camera shop that I purchased the Metabones from, and the guy there told me that the hash marks didn't mean anything. Now even though I wasn't 100% sure what the hash marks meant, I definitely knew that they meant something. So I contacted 2 other camera shops and each of them told me something different. One said that it meant a half a stop and the other said that it meant a third stop. So ultimately what I did was I opened the lens all the way up to hash mark F, and while looking at the iris, I turned the aperture ring into the iris stop. This let me know that I was at f22, and when I looked at the aperture control ring, I was on hash mark 6. So from f to 6 is 7 hash marks, and from f2.8 to f22 is 7 stops. So I decided to go with 1 stop, but if you guys have any different information on this, leave a comment below. Now this lens is a 70-200 f2.8 on a full frame camera, but since it's attached to a Metabones Speed Booster and a micro four thirds camera, we have to multiply it by 0.64 and then again by 2, which makes it a 90-256 f3.6. Now it may or may not be a deal breaker for you to know exactly what aperture you're shooting at, but ultimately trying to figure out the math in all this is probably going to be more work than I want to do. So I'll probably just learn to reference these hash marks with certain looks. Alright, so in the box of the GH5, you have the manual, a shoulder strap, an AC cable, a USB cable, a battery charger, a cable holder, a battery pack, and the Panasonic Lumix GH5. On the side you have 2 SD slots. On the rear you have a monitor that can rotate 180 degrees. On the opposite side you have a USB port, a HDMI port, a headphone jack, and a mic jack. And up top is where you'll find all your functions and controls. To connect the Metabones speed adapter, you simply screw it on just like you would a lens. From there you simply attach your lens to the adapter and you're good to go. Now this adapter is really well made, and the connection between the lens and the adapter is pretty much a perfect fit. However, there is a bit of a wiggle between the camera and the adapter. Now to be clear, the connection between the camera and the adapter is solid. It actually clicks and locks into place the same as the lens would. There's also no signs of light leaks. As far as video is concerned, everything works as expected. However, I am a bit disappointed that I can't use the in-body rack focus. That was definitely something that I was looking forward to. But of course, since the lens can't communicate with the adapter, I can't. Now I shot all this footage at 4K, Vlog, 8-bit, 100 megabits per second at 24 frames per second. Except for the slow-mo stuff. I shot that at 1080, 8-bit, 100 megabits per second at 120 frames per second. I didn't shoot 400 megabits per second because the cards that I have don't support it. Now one of the things that I noticed is that when using the focus peak and set to high, which is what I prefer because it's a bit more accurate, it becomes hard to see. So because of this, and because there seems to be a lot of discrepancy over which cards work at higher bit rates, and the fact that these cards can get really expensive really quick, I decided to go with an external recorder. Plus it'll save me a lot of time not having to transcode these larger files. But other than that, this is a great camera with a ton of pro features. Now obviously there's some trade-offs when using Nikkor lenses, but for me, I can live with it. But I'm curious to know what you guys think, so leave a comment below. And as always, if you guys enjoy this content, be sure to hit that like button and definitely subscribe. So until next time, peace.